Indiana Basketball Weekly Show on the Grilling Truth Sports Network. The Indiana Basketball Weekly Show is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. So if you want to bet on any NFL playoff games tomorrow or the next IU game on Tuesday against Penn State, just go to thegrillingtruth.net, click on MyBookie.ag. It'll take you right there. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now I want to welcome in my co-host, former Indiana Hoosier, and, of course, a member of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, Steve Risley.
And a national champion. Let's don't forget that, too.
Yeah, well, I always forget something off your long resume.
How much coaching do you need, Mike? I swear, you're like an Indiana basketball player.
I'll tell
you. You need endless coaching.
Well, you know what? At least I didn't bring up the fact that you failed miserably in high school when you lost to Aurora. And if he's listening, Rick Amped in the 1977 semi-state.
They were ready to play and we were not, and that's a life lesson all unto its own. All right, there. So we'll do a whole show on that game sometime.
And so we talk about being ready to play, and the Indiana Hoosiers win today, 75-71, behind 28 points for Robert Johnson, 20 points from Jawan Morgan. But when you look at this, Steve, I mean, Minnesota was missing two of their best players, and Indiana still struggled to beat them. And as you said when we were off air, you know, it wasn't so much that Indiana beat them, it's just that Minnesota played even worse than Indiana did.
Yeah, and I want to start off by saying one thing. We talked about this a little bit in the last show, that right now what became critical for Indiana now was just to get wins. We got to win. Okay, and right now, for them to do something with this season, they have to win ball games. They want a ball game. We can break down, and I'm sure that Twitter is full of people who are going to overanalyze and statistically analyze how we won this game and what it means. The only thing that matters is we got to win. We won ugly, and in order for teams to achieve anything, they've got to win games ugly. We pretty much got outplayed by a team that, for the most part, didn't have even the talent on the floor. A lot of their good players were missing. You know, we were missing Colin, who gives us a spark in there, and our big kid, Davis, is out. Looks like this for the rest of the year. And, you know, they're not without strife and turmoil on their own camp right now, too. But we got the win. I'm going to start off by just being positive about that. We got the win. The next thing I want to be positive about is we got the production we needed out of Johnson and Morgan together. And finally they come together and they put together great games, and it allows us to win ugly because they stepped up and put points on the board for us. Now, I could easily go back and find a lot of flaw in Johnson's game other than the fact that he put a lot of points on the board, but I'm not going to, because right now what's critical is that this team win ball games. They won a game. Now, here's my observation. What I think is, for those that really want to look at Indiana and watch, what we don't do at all, and what I notice is we don't control the tempo of ball games, okay? Our guards do not take it upon themselves to set a dynamic tempo and control the tempo so that we can run our offense as good as we want to. When we get into the right tempo, we're effectively offensively as good as anybody, okay? Now, here's what we're going to have to hope for. This is what happened in this game today. Fortunately for us, Minnesota ran the tempo on their game because they were controlling the tempo, ran the tempo we needed to put the points on the board. So we need to thank Minnesota because they set the tempo for most of the game. Fortunately for us, for Indiana's offense, it was a tempo that we're very comfortable in playing in. And I think that's a big outcome as to why we won this game. We outscored Minnesota in this game. When we don't win, it's because we're not controlling the tempo, we're not setting the tempo, and our opponents are creating a tempo that doesn't effectively allow us to run our offense as effectively as we should. And I think that's a lesson it's an observation I took. If we get the right tempo, we can play.
Yeah, but Steve, it's hard to get the right tempo when you don't really have a true point guard, which I don't think this team has a true point guard.
No, it's exactly right. That's exactly the point I was trying to make, is that we don't have anybody that controls. So for us to win ball games right now is incumbent on the other team to set the tempo for us, because we don't have a true effective point guard that can effectively set our own tempo. Because I think when we do set our own tempo and get the game moving at a pace we're comfortable in, where we're dumping it inside, we're keeping our offense spread, We're getting good looks in the three-point range for our shooters, and we're doing everything we can. We're effective. We're a good ball club offensively. And we've seen that periodically throughout the season. But it's not us that's setting that tempo. And I hope that's something that Coach Miller takes a look at and really starts, continues to hone in on that we have got to find this tempo that Indiana's offense runs at optimal for them at, and try and dictate and control that tempo through whatever personnel we put on the floor. Now, the other part I really like today is young kids got minutes. The playing time got spread out for some players that haven't normally gotten some time. And that was going to be my other suggestion. Had we lost this game, was the bright side of this, had we lost, and I go back, the bright side is we won the game. Okay, that's the overall big picture here. We won the game. But the bright side is we're starting to give some of our younger players minutes. And if we're not going to win, we got to at least start to think about next year, recruiting players, letting players know where other players are going to fit in, getting some of our young freshman players some playing time, some seasonalization into it. And we got a lot of that accomplished today too. So overall, effectively, I'd say grade-wise, this was a C-plus effort by Indiana overall. Partly due to the part that it was a D-minus effort by Minnesota, but I thought we capitalized on opportunities that Minnesota presented to us as best as we had all year. And we took advantage of it, and we won the game.
Yeah, and I think one of those guys that hasn't done near what he's done lately was Justin Smith, who got 26 minutes today, scored 20 points. I think he, showed a lot of improvement over the last few games. And then Freddie McSwain Jr. gave them some good minutes. I think he had 8 or 9 rebounds in like 15 or 16 minutes. And you need guys like that to come in and supplement your starting five.
Well, Smith and McSwain were relative to the game. They were catalysts in the game. You're exactly right. They came in and they made plays. They made a difference. Their court presence was known. The announcers talked about them. We saw them make plays. They're going to make young player mistakes, granted, but they're out there trying to make something happen. And I'm not sure I can say that consistently for our more tenured players on this basketball team. And if we're going to continue to play McRoberts, he's got to do something else besides stand out there and just take one dribble, look at the bucket for a split second, and then pass the ball off. He's got to become more of an offensive threat, not just scrappy under the boards. He does a good job of that, and he's effective for us down there. But we've got to get him to be more inclusive into the offense as a whole in cutting, or they're going to end up being guarding 5-on-4, only guarding 4 of our offensive players, just leave him alone.
Yeah.
So now we're still talking effectively about the offensive end. We haven't even gotten to the defensive end yet, but offensively, good solid effort. We got Johnson involved. We need to get more out of Newkirk. I don't know why these two can't mesh and do it together. Juwan Morgan continues to just be the bright spot of the season. I mean, the kid's playing his heart out. He's running the floor well, defense on both ends of the floor. He's hustling. He's playing. I was disappointed that Johnson, I think, with 10 minutes to go in the game, pulls himself out of the game, says he's tired, and they take him out. Come on, dude. You're scoring 28 points in the game, and you want to sit? Jeez. If I'm that hot, I don't ever want to come out of a ball game. You're not taking me out of the game when I'm this hot.
And that is why Robert Johnson, even though he may be the leading scorer on this team, is not a leader. A leader doesn't take himself out at that point.
A leader does not ever. Isaiah Thomas never wanted to come out of a ball game. We could be up by 50, and Isaiah was crying because he wasn't getting enough playing time. And I know Woodson was the same way, and Buckner was the same way. Alford was the same way. These guys, he's smart. You can go down the list of great players who stepped up in that 1,000-point club and just said, I don't want to come out ever. And when I do, the first thing I'm going to do is bitch at the coach to get me right back in the game. Because as soon as he and Morgan went out, they make a run on us. And I think they actually take the lead at that point. And then he finally gets them back in the game. And we effectively get back into the tempo they want to set for us. And it fits our skill sets really well. And we end up getting a little good control of the game long enough to hang on.
Yeah, and so my concern is still we give up a lot of runs at ill-timed times during the game, I guess you could say. And you were missing Coffey and Lynch, which were probably Minnesota's 2 best players. IU came out, I thought the first half, for most of the first half, played pretty well. had a 7-point lead with like a minute and a half left and a half, and then, Miller takes a timeout, and before you know it, we're only up one going to halftime.
That's the first call I've really questioned on Coach Miller. It's like, hold on, Coach, you got 2 minutes to go. You got a 7-point lead. You're kind of holding your own or maybe even pulling away a little bit. Why are you taking a timeout right now? Run this half out. Go in with a good cushion, a good 7-point lead. Talk positively to your players and come out and try and get them to give you a good 5-minute start of the second half. He calls a timeout, allows Minnesota to reset. They go in with a 1-point lead and bring them right back into the game. Now, I'm not going to fault Coach Miller. I mean, I'm really, to me, this is a free pass year for him. He's not playing with his own cards, and I think he's trying not to fall into the Bob Knight trap of coaching like Coach Knight does, which everybody's starting to want him to do, including me to some degree, wanting to get a little more tougher than he is. Maybe that's just not his style. I'm glad he's sticking to his guns. But I thought that was the first questionable decision I've really seen him make this season. Because as I said all along, I'm not putting a lot of this season on Coach Miller at this point in time. I think he's as frustrated as anybody is, you, me, or any of the other people out there that are IU fans, one way or another. But now we got to go talk about defense. And we continue to just absolutely shoot ourselves in every part of our body defensively. There is no help side defense. There is no cutting off down the lane. There is no block out. The announcers were just joking about the big kid. Was it Kennedy?
Yeah.
Or who was the big Murphy?
Conte or something? Conete?
No, the big power forward they had. There was just, they said he can't hit a bucket within 3 feet, and he just chases the ball and gets his own rebound because he knows he's going to miss it and taps it back in. He must have scored 80% of his points that way.
Was that
and we're not blocking him out. This kid's flying. Who?
Murphy.
It was Murphy. Yeah, Murphy. And he's. I'm watching this kid now. So when they announce it, I'm like, he's just crashing the boards every play, and he's just putting them right back in. And does anybody recognize the fact that Murphy's crashing the boards every play? Say, hey, let's get a body on him. We got 5 assistant coaches sitting on the bench there. Let's call a timeout. Let's talk to somebody. Hey, can somebody get a body on Murphy? He's scoring all of his points on putbacks. But I don't know what their whole mindset is defensively, because this is about as bad a defensive IU basketball club as I can remember seeing in a long point in time. And I'm even talking about Crean's teams when he would beat people 95-92. I mean, this team just, because I think at least Crean was spending some time defensively trying to get people in the passing lanes, trying to get them to cut off driving lanes, take a baseline away, or push them back to the middle where you got help. I saw one time when I think Morgan did a good job of cutting off the top of the lane, forced the guy left, and he got by, got a step on Morgan, and he just, the offensive player just whizzes right by Johnson, and Johnson didn't even bother to put a hand out, let alone try and put a body on him and slow him down. Didn't even play matador defense. It's like, it's not my problem, let him go. So, but aside from all this, defensively we still are just not there. And I don't know that we're going to get there this year. Offensively, I think definitely as long as somebody's setting the tempo that we work well within, we're going to be able to compete. But I like you, just don't believe there's a leader on this team that can create our own tempo for us. I don't see it happening. I mean, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Even with 28 points, I didn't think that Johnson was a leadership factor in this ball game. I think he took a lot of shots. He hit shots. He was effectively in hitting his shots today. He put up 28 points, which definitely helped us win the game. But that's how he helped us win the game, not by his seniority, not by his leadership, not by his communication, not by his coaching younger players on the court, just simply by putting up 28 points. He goes against Michigan State here in a couple games, and they'll effectively shut Johnson down, and we're likely to get our tails set back to Indiana or into Bloomington, badly. Because I just don't think Johnson has anything other than the ability to score, or he won't get involved or, get engaged in all aspects of the game. But we got to win.
Yeah, and the thing is this, though. The last time we got a win similar to this was the game against Notre Dame a few weeks ago, and then Indiana comes out right away and gets their ass kicked by Fort Wayne. So I think what you've got coming up with Penn State and Northwestern are 2 must-win games before you play Michigan State. Penn State's 12-5. I think Penn State may be a little bit better than people thought they were going to be, and I think Northwestern might be worse than what people thought they would be at 10-7. These are 2 home games. You have to win these games, Steve.
Yeah, I'm looking at the schedule right now. We've got Penn State, Northwestern, Michigan State, Maryland, and Illinois. We have got to win at least 3 of those 5. We really need to win 4 of those 5 to really give us some hope going into the stretch drive into the tournament of making the dance. But you're right. Penn State and Northwestern are a must. They're at home. They're in Bloomington. They're both against 2 teams that we're as talented as well coached as they are. So we should take those. Michigan State, I can't sit here and honestly say I would bet anything on Indiana beating Michigan State. But, if you got 2 great games coming in with Penn State and Northwestern, you put some points on it, you win a couple good, solid, big wins at home, you go out there with a little bit of confidence, who knows what happens? That's the beauty of playing the game on the court and not on a computer.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's so important that they win these 2 games, and they're both beatable teams. Penn State, I think Indiana matches up pretty good with, because Penn State's strength is Stevens and Watkins. That's their strength. IU can combat them with Morgan, Justin Smith. I mean, Stevens against Northwestern the other day scored 30. Watkins had 18. If you look at their guards, Tony Carr is a really good guard. But outside of that, it's just some guys there. So I think this is a game where I think the big guys can cancel each other out. And Robertson and Newkirk got to step up. Yeah, and Durham.
And Durham, you got to throw Durham in the loop there. I mean, and you got to throw him in there now because he effectively made impact today. So, but Newkirk and Johnson and Durham have got to step up and be the catalyst for the difference in this game. And Northwestern's guard heavy too.
Well, see, that's the thing about Durham, Steve.
McIntosh is an All-American.
Steve, I don't think there is at any point where we've ever had a game where we came on and said Robert Johnson didn't score any points, but he impacted the game. Al Durham,
right.
I think there's a handful of games at least that he affected with scoring 2 points in each one of those games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he had what? He didn't score at all. Well, he scored 2 points. Did he score at all? No, he didn't score at all today. I know he was in the game, and I can recall plays he made in the game. So, and that's having impact in the game. And these guys have got to learn there's so many different ways to impact the game other than just putting 28 points on the board. And it's nice if that's all Johnson's going to give us, if he gives it to us every game. I mean, if we can count on 28 points every game from Johnson, we probably could make some adjustments and live with that. The problem is we can't count on those 28 points every game. We may not get 28 points out of him in the next 4 games total now.
Yeah,
we may not.
I think
we just don't know.
The whole key to this team being successful and maybe making it to the NCAA tournament, I think what it comes down to is Josh Newkirk, and if he can get his game going the way he has in past years. This year, I can't even remember a game he played well. And his playing time's been dropped to 16 minutes. I don't know if he's pressing too much, or maybe Johnson just shoots the ball every time he gets it. Newkirk gets pissed at him, and they don't get along or whatever. But Newkirk has got to do something for this team to be successful.
I'm questioning even how he's still starting. When you got guys, when you got kids like Durham and stuff coming up, and even giving you a better effort, or doing other things, being a little more aggressive defensively. Why you're even starting Newkirk at this point in time, because he's really not been effective offensively or even leadership-wise. I can't remember the last game where he really stepped up big and made an impact in the ball game. I can't even remember a play he made today in the game that sits in my mind like, oh, good, Newkirk did something. But I got to give, I want to give really Johnson credit. His shot selection was good today. I didn't think he forced a couple threes, but not nearly. I thought he had probably some of the best shot selection he'd had all season long, and he was good. He's just got to carry that and transition that over into all aspects of his ball game as a leader, as a senior, and as our point guard. Whether he effectively is a true point guard or not, he's anointed that position. And he's got to play with the same intensity and same level as Morgan does. I mean, if you could get Morgan and Johnson playing at that same level of intensity every game from here on out, we'll be fine. We'll get in the dance. We will. And we'll end up with a winning record in the Big Ten and a winning record. Because I tell you, the Big Ten's weak this year. I'm looking and watching these games, and I haven't seen Michigan State play yet. I haven't seen Ohio State play yet. And I've not seen Maryland play yet. But I've not seen anybody that looks like is going to be any kind of a threat in any kind of tournament.
Michigan
I know Purdue's good.
Michigan State's a threat.
Michigan State is. Purdue's going to be a threat if they can always get by the first round. For some reason they have a roadblock there in the first or second round of the tournament every year. If they can get by that, I think they're going to be good. They're well coached. Ohio State seems to grow, but this is a ripe opportunity for a team like Indiana to take advantage of the down year that the Big Ten is really having this year collectively and really, create some history for itself. We've talked about that both on Twitter and in previous radio shows that they need to start thinking about creating some history for the legacy of this franchise of Indiana basketball that's on the court right now. So all in all, we'll wrap it up here. We'll start thinking about next game. If you want to break down and what else we need to look for the next three games, we've got to have wins. Today, we got to win. And with that, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And right now, I think that's what Indiana fans should be happy about. We came out of this not playing well, playing on the road, playing in what's generally a pretty hostile environment up in Minnesota, and we came away with a win. I think we leave it right there.
Plus, we beat Pitino. And I really hate Minnesota now just because every time they show their coach, I just think of Rick Pitino.
There's his dad in the stands.
His kid looks just as swarmy as he does, too.
They were commenting on that on the radio show, but I'm not going to digress to that conversation. But we've got to capitalize on Minnesota now. We've got to get Penn State and Northwestern. And then we got to go and we've got to play fierce at Michigan State. But no matter what we do, we have to play fearlessly and fierce. Play them hard. Just play them hard. Don't let them roll over us.
And the big thing I think we all learned today is that Rick Pitino's an asshole, and so's his son probably, but Indiana beat him today. All right, you want to go ahead and tell everybody where they can find the Grueling Truth, Indiana basketball
we're
on Twitter?
At Grueling Hoops, on Twitter, at Grueling Hoops. I have my own website, srisley34, on Twitter as well. So there's two different places you can interact on Twitter if you have questions you want to ask. And I know you have a Facebook page with the Grueling Truth, which has a link to the Indiana radio show and things like that. So, we're not hard to find. Hit me on Twitter. My wife watches a lot of romantic comedies, so I spend a lot of time on Twitter.
Yeah, I think you watch romantic comedies, and then she gets in there and types to people because she knows more about basketball.
I've seen every Reese Witherspoon movie ever made, and that's too many.
That's really not something to brag about, Steve.
I'm not bragging about it. That's why I have two sites on Twitter.
It sounded like you were bragging.
But, great job. Good. Indiana got to win. I think everybody should be happy.
I like how you're trying to get off the fact that you just admitted that you've seen every Reese Witherspoon movie ever made.
No, I have. And every Julia Roberts movie, too.
Okay, now, see, if you were on Twitter, you wouldn't see those movies. So you're admitting that you watched that with your wife.
I've seen Sweet Home Alabama probably 8 times.
Not the Leonard Skinner one either, huh?
Well, they play that song in the movie, so anyway, we're getting off tangent here.
Yeah.
Good win. Indiana's got an opportunity now. By winning today, they created an opportunity for themselves. They created an opportunity to build some seasonal momentum, to get some preparation in, to attack Michigan State and at least play them hard, and then come back and bring Maryland into the Assembly Hall, and Maryland's beatable, and then go to Illinois and win there, come out of this with 3 or 4 wins in the next 5 games. And I think we are back in the tournament hunt. And I think that's positive. And I like the way Johnson played tonight. I want him to play like that the rest of the season. If he does, and Juwan keeps the effort he's given us, and we get the younger players involved and continue to make impact like they made today, we're going to be okay for this edition of Indiana basketball. And that's going to help with recruiting. That's going to help with the demeanor of the young kids coming back. It's just Success breeds success.
All right, Steve, I want to remind everybody you can also go to iTunes and download the Grueling Truth app on your iPhone. Also, you can follow us at thegruelingtruth.net. All of our shows are on iHeart, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher. Anywhere you find podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.